Hey guys, this is Ghost. Before I begin this video, I just wanted to personally say thank you guys so much for the love and support that I get from you. Those of you who follow me on Snapchat and Twitter, you guys, I don't know how you do it, but you make me laugh sometimes. With all the comments and likes and people sharing it on Twitter and even disliking the video, I'm happy with people just noticing my stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to get that thank you out of the way and to let you guys know that, hey, I really do appreciate you guys. And without further ado, let's start the story. I'd like to start with a bit of history before I describe what happened to me last night. I've been a World of Warcraft WoW player since pre-Burning Crusade, basically off and on since 2007, and I had never heard of the crypt in Karajan until a couple days ago. In case you've never played WoW, Karajan was one of the first raids of the expansion, the Burning Crusade. Players assembled in groups of 10, traveled to the rather creepy zone called Deadwind Pass, and ventured into an enormous haunted castle to fight ghosts, demons, and raid bosses for epic level 70 loot. I remember loving it for its ambience. Creepy, baroque-like music and haunting whispers all throughout the boss encounters. It was morbid, dark, and most importantly, it was fun. There really hasn't been anything like it since. Anyway, the crypt is an area adjacent and below Karajan, but for some reason players would never be able to explore without some minor game exploits. Stone steps lead underground to an impassable iron gate, and the only way you could get in was by dueling other players, like a warlock, who could fear you past the gate, or a mage, who could polymorph you into a sheep that would uncontrollably pass through the gate. Players reportedly entered a subzone called the Well of the Forgotten, and they would jump down it, landing on a pile of bones in a new zone called the Pit of Criminals. They would then navigate through a maze of non-player character corpses and bones in the Pauper's Walk, and eventually come to the creepiest zone of them all, the Upside Down Sinners. Human NPCs tied to thick chains in a vast flooded chamber float upside down in this room. Definitely a weird sight to stumble upon through exploits, which is precisely why I eventually had to see it for myself. After doing a little more research on the crypt, I discovered that Blizzard, the company that owns WoW, had actively banned players' accounts for advertising trips to the crypt. Apparently, someone on a forum, or even in the global in-game trade chat channel, would offer trips into this abandoned part of the game and lead people. These players were banned, and a few patches over the years made it impossible to fear or polymorph people through the gates into the crypt. They added an invisible wall in front of the gate. This still didn't stop people. Another more complex set of exploits made it possible to venture into this area. There's hundreds of blog posts and YouTube videos showing anyone how to do it, so it can still be done. What I find most bizarre, however, is why do they keep it? It's been over half a decade since the developers put the zone there, and even with the graphically restructuring of the old zones in a Cataclysm expansion, they did absolutely nothing to erase this area. Rumors spread about the Upside Down Sinners being too graphic for its game rating, but a blue post from a developer on the World of Warcraft forums confirmed that rating would not have been an issue. If you've read this far, you should probably be caught up to where I was prior to exploring this place myself. Last night was actually pretty normal. My girlfriend and I made dinner together, played video games for a while, and eventually went to bed after our eyes were dried and hands started to ache. It was hard to fall asleep. I read the news and browsed Reddit on my phone until I eventually fell into a light slumber, but it was short-lived by a terrifying dream. I only vaguely remember the part of it that woke me up. A stranger and myself woke up on a dirt floor, impaled through the abdomen by giant concrete pillars, in what appeared to be a dungeon. I remember the sense of despair I felt, knowing there was no way we could ever escape our captors. It was still on my mind when my eyes opened up to the dark atmosphere of the bedroom. The phone told me it was 3:16 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Quietly, I got out of bed and turned on the computer, plugging in my headphones and opening World of Warcraft. Maybe, I thought, I could finish a cooking achievement that I've been working on all week. I was pretty close to the Master of the Ways title. Finally got it, by the way. But the servers were down. If you play MMOs, you probably know the feeling that came over me then. Rage. All I wanted to do was escape insomnia for a while and distract myself with a video game. But lo and behold, the servers were down, and I really didn't feel awake enough to try my hand at battling super serious ranked players in League of Legends, or one of the countless free MOBAs I have on my hard drive. Instead, I decided to check out the public test realms, PTRs, WoW's beta testing grounds for new installments to their games. They're essentially like the regular servers, except you don't get to keep the characters, and other than testing out new content, it's really just a waste of time, which was what I needed, something to waste time. The PTR realms were up and running, so I created a level 90 undead mage to test out on the new zones coming out in the next expansion. The game loaded, and I was instantly transported to the Horde capital of Ogrimmar. The trade chat channel was bustling with comments from players complaining about how all the new zones were bugged and inaccessible. WoW players love to complain. At this point, I was about to log out, take some NyQuil, and force myself to pass the fuck out. But I remembered about the exploit to see the crypt. There was a rumor floating in some forums that the developers were going to completely take it out with the release of the next expansion, so I thought it would be fun to check it out for myself before it was gone for good. It was when I got to Deadwind Pass that I first noticed something odd. The music stopped. I directed my mage toward Karajan, and had to circle around it to find the crypt. However, before I landed, I saw two Alliance players, a human and a night elf, doing the same exploit I was about to do. At first I was annoyed, because they would probably want to fight me, and I won't lie, I fucking suck at PvP. But I didn't think they noticed me. One of them was speaking, although I couldn't make out what they said. Blizzard translates it into an intelligible language called Common when you play as a race on the Horde faction, like the Undead. Alliance players can't message Horde players, and all interaction is basically characterized by emotes in the weird gibberish of Common and Orcish. This player seemed to be showing the other one how to do the exploit. Must have been one of those guides from the forums that take people through the exploit to see the crypt. Kind of strange to see it this late at night. Even stranger that they're doing it on the PTR. I hid my mage from the view of them, and waited until they dropped beneath the surface. It was finally my turn to sneak into the crypt. The exploit actually took a few tries. If you don't get your character lined up precisely, the way they show it in YouTube videos, then it just doesn't work. But I finally got it. When I dropped down, the zone on my map changed from Deadwind Pass to the Well of the Forgotten. At 3 AM, this was pretty creepy. The ambience was a slow, steady heartbeat, but the area was just a stone room with a deep well in the center, kinda like in The Ring, but much more pixelated. I peered down and saw the two Alliance players at the bottom. They ran off, out of sight, but I still waited a minute before I jumped down myself. I really didn't want to PvP, just wanted to explore. When my mage hit the bottom of the well, I noticed something very weird. Usually, players landed on a giant pile of bones and skulls that's kind of built into the physical terrain, but this one was covered in the corpses of other players. There were hundreds of them, all with different names and of different races. Gnomes, humans, blood elves, orcs, etc. I thought maybe it was a joke. But what I saw later on still has me questioning whatever the fuck that was I landed on. I still didn't want to be seen, so I slowly made my way through the next part, the Pauper's Walk. All the videos on YouTube showed built-in terrain textures of skulls and NPC bodies, but for some reason, there were just more player corpses. Pretty fucking weird. And I couldn't wait to log out and do something later, but I kept going. I had to see the upside-down sinners before I logged out. I traveled down a stairwell that eventually led me to a vast, flooded room. Unfortunately, the two Alliance players were just ahead of me, so I had to cast invisibility on myself to see the last zone. They swam in front of me, and they were still speaking to each other, although I obviously couldn't make out what they were saying. The upside-down sinners were definitely there, but as you might suspect, there was something off. The corpses were clickable. They each had unique names and weren't just built into the terrain. They were still tied by their hands and suspended by chains, feet floating vertically to the flooded stone ceiling. I then noticed that the human player was beginning to yell something at the Night Elf player. The person playing the Night Elf tried Hearthing, a spell that takes your character back to an in-game inn, usually a faction's major city, but it didn't work. The human kept emoting laughter at the Night Elf, and something about the whole situation distracted me from the fact that my invisibility had finally worn off. The Night Elf player instantly targeted me and started spamming the /beg and /help emotes, but I wasn't sure what was going on. I thought it was a joke, right? Then I noticed the Night Elf's player health bar started dropping. He was drowning. My character started drowning as well, and health ticked away. I tried Hearthing, but it was bugged too. It didn't work. The human player turned to me and started emoting laughter and yelling more in common. At first I thought this was a pretty awesome joke until he sent me a message. There is no escape. You will join the others. Death is close. So, it's impossible for someone on the Alliance to message someone on the Horde like that. This shit was way too creepy for me to continue. I Alt F4'd as any sane person would do, but the game didn't close. The human just kept emoting at me, and the screen got darker. The water we were floating in started turning red, and the heartbeat that was in the background grew louder, faster, and was accompanied by what sounded like 1,000 different voices all whispering at once. I noticed my character start to slowly turn in the water, going upside down. The sounds were too much. I ripped off the headphones and reached for the power switch on my PC. The human whispered to me, "Don't. You will regret. I will find you." Smiley face. I pressed and held, waiting for the screen to go black, and right before my computer powered off, I noticed one last thing. The faces of the upside-down sinners were not the usual and ambiguous blurred pixels I had seen on the internet. They were, I swear, hyper-realistic, unique, and contorting, moving, in what appeared to be agony and despair. My computer shut off. I got a glass of water, and turned on a few lights in the kitchen, pacing back and forth about whether or not I would tell anyone about this experience. They would probably think I was trolling them. My girlfriend would think of it as a lame attempt to try and scare her. I tried getting my mind off of it by binging on The Office until sunrise. By 7 a.m., I decided to return to my computer. I turned it on and checked the normal WoW servers. They were back up, finally. I logged into my main character with the intent of asking the trade channel if anyone's ever gone to the crypt in the PTR. However, I noticed I had mail from Unknown waiting for me. It seemed strange. I didn't have anything for sale in the auction house. I thought it must have been a message from a Blizzard game master about the random server crash earlier this morning. It definitely wasn't. In the letter, it was written, "I'm waiting. You know where to find me." Well, hello there. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more. It would help me out, and it would let you know if I have more stuff for you. So, blah, 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 blah.